Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days. Well, today's second video, so it takes us around 27th of July. And we'll be able to extend out beyond that, the extended GFS and ECM ensembles, which run to around a couple of weeks. We shall, as usual, have a look at the CFS V2 for the next month at the end of the video. All eyes on next week's weather, though, at the moment. There is the chance, and I'm going to talk you through the charts in a moment, there is the chance that we could bring up some very hot air from the south again next week. So we had this in the final week of June. It looks like we could get a repeat in the final week of July. Certainly going to get extremely hot again for France and Spain. So if you're watching this in France or Spain, very, very hot temperatures next week. Dangerously hot, probably, again, some places. We might start to import some of that extreme heat into the UK through the course of next week as well. Now, there is uncertainty about this, isn't there always, for the UK's weather? So not all models are in agreement about this. So at the moment, it's just a risk, a chance, a possibility. It could get very hot next week. But until all models are in agreement, obviously, have to stay really cautious about it. So I'll go back for you very shortly, just to say that the first video update, as always on Wednesday, 5-day forecast, having a detailed look at weather the next 5 days. And it could be a little bit more unsettled in the next 5 days, with some useful rain to come, even in the south, I think, overnight, Friday and in Saturday. Have a look at the 5-day forecast and see what's going on. So, we're going to start off with the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. Looking at Rugby today, so the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Rugby. This is where we're starting off at right now, close to average. We're going to stay pretty close to average, really, through to the early part of next week. So that period just there takes up to the beginning of next week. And overall, looks like it's staying, as I say, quite close to 30-year temperature average. Through the course of next week, though, temperatures are lifting up. Question is, how much will temperatures lift up and how long for? So, clearly we see that temperatures lift up there. That's probably around Monday, Tuesday next week. It clearly is becoming warm with all ensemble members then. But from around sort of the middle of next week onwards, and that's this period just here, we obviously have a divergence within the ensemble. So we've got a cluster of ensemble members through the middle and second half of next week that are down there, close to the 30-year temperature average. So they're the cooler ensemble members. And the thick green line, that is the operational GFS run. I'm going to show you that in a moment. That tells us that the 6 o'clock operational run was within the coolest cluster of the ensembles. So when you see it in a minute, will be quite a bit cooler. But we've also got these the second cluster, and it is a bigger cluster. There's more of these runs that are going either hot or even very hot through the course of next week, the middle and second half of next week. So the hottest ensemble members are going up to here, and that is taking us to between 20 and 25 Celsius again, 850 That's the sort of level of upper air temperature that we had during the final week of June, when we had extreme, that record-breaking hot upper air temperatures. It wasn't realised down on the surface. You'll remember we had this divergence that we was unsure about through the final week of June between extreme heat in the upper atmosphere and cooler weather, cooler surface temperatures. But it did get pretty hot for one day. It was that Saturday where we got temperatures into the low 30s. I think we maxed out around 33 or 34 Celsius. So for one day we did start to realise the temperature potential within the upper atmosphere. But it's only one day. Otherwise, we generally just pulled in relatively coolish air from the North Sea. But anyway, coming back to next week. So we've got this cluster just here that are going for very, very high upper air temperatures, very hot upper air temperatures indeed. And then we've got the cooler cluster down there. That leaves the white line, which is the ensemble means. That's taking that's kind of like a mean line of all individual ensemble members. That's leaving that in the middle, somewhere between the two clusters. But that's there because we have got a split within the ensembles. But there are more of them that are on the hotter side of things, interestingly, for the middle, second half of next week. And these ones down here, this cooler cluster, they look as though they're in the minority. Now, precipitation-wise, so I've got some rainfall coming up over the next few days, a few showers possible tomorrow, and then a heavier area of rain Friday into Saturday. Could give some useful rainfall then. After that, it looks a little bit showery for the course of next week. I think, again, as I've been talking about with the videos lately, the new version of Wet Essential, the rainfall spikes look overdone, over top. I'll be very surprised if there's as much rain around as that next week in Rugby, but we shall see. Temperature anomalies from the 17th to 25th of July are forecast to be warmer than average for the UK and for Ireland and for most parts of Europe as well. I would expect these to trend hotter, especially for France, Spain and Portugal over the next few days. Precipitation anomalies from the 17th to 25th of July, actually a little bit above average for the UK and for Ireland. So rather unsettled if the remember this is based on the GFS though. The GFS is rather unsettled next week. But again, I'm a little bit dubious about that because of the split that we see within the GFS models. Right, let's get down to the detail then. Let's show you the charts. So this is the 6 o'clock GFS run for Saturday. And what we see on Saturday is that we're bringing a weather system in from off the Atlantic, so there'll be heavy rain overnight Friday and Saturday. That gets out into the North Sea. Early next week, we get this build of high pressure developing to our south and east, with low pressure out to the north and west. We start to draw up hotter air from the south, so for a time, for the early part of next week, even the GFS wants to turn things quite a bit hotter. That's Tuesday next week. Again, we've got high pressure from Germany up to Scandinavia, low pressures around Iceland. We're drawing up this southerly wind. There is a thundery low that's developing over Cherbourg as well. And there's the upper air temperatures for Tuesday. So it's pretty warm. We've got 15 Celsius isotherm into the far south and southeast. So that will probably just about get temperatures close to 30 degrees anyway down in the south. Otherwise, we're sort of mid to upper 20s Celsius with that, I would have thought. But by Wednesday, it's already breaking down. That little low that was over Cherbourg has drifted northwards over the UK and Ireland. That could well be bringing heavy showers and thunderstorms, actually. Could be rather a thundery scenario. But the key point is that it is keeping most of the hot air away to our south and southeast. There's the upper air temperatures for Wednesday. Again, that's a 15 Celsius isotherm just there, just about making it into East Anglia, southeastern England. If you're within that, you get to 30 degrees normally at the end of July, dependent on sunshine, of course, where there's thunderstorms. But 15 Celsius, 858 PA on the 24th of July, we'll get to around 30 degrees normally. So, yes, we do import some pretty hot air into the far south, southeast for a time through next week. But breaking down very quickly with this thundery area of low pressure. By the second half of next week, it's turning cooler as that thundery low drifts away to our east, and we start to pull much cooler air back in from the north. That's how we look at day 10, actually very unsettled, and you might even say a little bit autumnal there. That's Saturday, 27th of July, and we've got a 990 millibar area of low pressure sitting just to the west of Ireland. We're bringing in a pretty cool westerly wind, and outbreaks of heavy and persistent rain will be coming in with that too. In the extended range of this GFS run, eventually we start to build some high pressure up, but it's coming in from the west and the north really, so it never gets particularly warm. We've gone through to the end of August now, the start of August I should say, at the end of the GFS run. It takes us to Friday, 2nd of August, and we look rather cool. Winds are in from the north, fairly dry. We're under a ridge of high pressure, but there could be a few showers, I suppose. But the main thing is that after we get that push of heat through like the early part of next week up to Wednesday, it then turns much cooler, and the rest of July, even into the start of August, is generally on the cool side. And so that is how, on the ensemble chart, we get this cooler operational GFS run just here, which is, as I say, within the cooler cluster. It's not an outlier. It's not a cold outlier or a cool outlier. There are other runs within the GFS ensembles that are doing the same thing, but it's within the cooler cluster. Right, so that's the GFS. Now, this is the GEM. This is the Canadian model. Again, Friday to Saturday, quite unsettled low pressure moving in from the west, bringing heavy outbreaks of rain. Then we go through to the early part of next week, getting this build of high pressure to our south-southeast. Low pressure is out to the north and the west. Now, I haven't spoken about this low pressure, but there is going to be a weather front that might get a bit stuck in the northwest. And there's a lot of energy feeding into that low pressure with this hot air to the south of the low from this area of high pressure that's building across France and Germany. So that front, as it gets stuck across the northwest Scotland and Northern Ireland, that might produce a lot of very wet weather through the early part of next week. It's more like the kind of thing you tend to get in the winter, in the autumn and winter. But if that front gets stuck, because of the energy available, it could produce some very, very wet weather in the northwest of Scotland and for Northern Ireland. For the rest of us, though, we're importing quite hot air from the south, as the upper air temperatures, 15 Celsius isotherm, again, is getting into southern and southeastern parts through the early part of next week. Then through the middle part of next week, we keep it fairly warm in the south. It's a little bit cooler in the northwest and always more unsettled in the northwest too. I mean, in the second half of next week, a little bit different to what the GFS is showing, because then the GM starts to lift this low pressure out to the north, and high pressure begins to build to our south. So it takes quite a while to get there, but eventually, through the second half of next week, the GM does start to turn things much hotter. That's how we look at day 10 with the GM, which is Saturday, 27th of July. You notice that low pressure has lifted out to the north, and the jet stream has lifted out to the north too. It's allowing a ridge, albeit quite flabby, a ridge to build up from the south, containing a bubble of very, very hot air. There's the upper air temperatures for day 10 with the GM. So we have the 20 Celsius isotherm there, covering many parts of central, southern and eastern England. The 25 Celsius isotherm, we have this the end of June, of course. The 25 Celsius isotherm is into the extreme southeast. That could bring extreme heat to, certainly to France, parts of Germany and the Low Countries. You're probably talking about temperature to 40 degrees there, 105 Fahrenheit. For us in the UK, as we saw at the end of June, it is a little bit more complicated to get extreme heat into the UK. But I suspect we will at the very least be seeing temperatures into the mid-30s Celsius with that. We didn't have to wait till nearer the time to see the exact parameters with the actually how much air are we importing from the North Sea and that kind of thing. But there doesn't look to be that much of an easterly feed coming in with that. So the GM takes a while to get there, but by day 10, it is bringing extreme heat across much of Europe. And they've got the ECMWF, and this is how the ECM is looking. So again, Saturday, well, it's rather cool and showery on Saturday. Go through to Sunday to Monday. There's that area of low pressure out to the northwest. That could bring a real soaking to parts of Northern Ireland and western Scotland. Meanwhile, further south, we've got a ridge of high pressure building across France, and extreme heat is beginning to push northwards out of North Africa in towards Spain and France too. That's Tuesday. Again, you'll notice that this low pressure is just to the northwest of Scotland, so there is a trailing front there. That's a little bit concerning. It could dump a lot of wet weather to far northwest. Further south looks mainly dry for England and Wales, becoming increasingly warm. I reckon by there, Tuesday, 23rd of June, we will probably get temperatures to around 30 degrees in the southeast. That's 86 Fahrenheit. There's the upper air temperatures. So 15 Celsius isotherm covering much of England and Wales. It isn't as warm as that further north, but it's warm enough to produce energy to fuel that weather front. And then into the middle part of next week, the low pressure, again, similar to what the GEM is doing, begins to lift out with the jet stream, begins to lift northwards, build a pressure across central parts of Europe, and we start to draw up much hotter air from the south. There's the upper air temperatures for Wednesday, 20 Celsius isotherm is starting to push into the extreme south and southeast. Notice how hot it is again across Spain and moving up in towards the Bay of Biscay. And then into the second half next week, so this is Thursday the 25th of July, when we're looking really hot with the ECM. The 20 Celsius isotherm is covering England and Wales too. That's Friday. Again, looking mainly dry under a ridge of high pressure, extension from the Azores high. And certainly for the south and the southeast, it does look potentially very hot once more. 20 Celsius isotherm is covering England and Wales again. So this could well be getting us into the mid-30s Celsius, again, dependent on cloud and how much we're feeding the air in from the northeast. But these are very extremely hot upper air temperatures that the ECM is forecasting for the second half of next week. That's how we look at day 10, which is Saturday the 27th of July, still under the ridge, and I think we're just starting to import some cooler air in from the north then, so possibly some sort of weakish cold front is drifting into that area of high pressure. There's the upper air temperature, still really hot for England and Wales, but further north it just looks like it's beginning to cool ever so slightly. But for England and Wales, again, we're within that 20 Celsius isotherm, and that could bring record-breaking heat certainly to France, to the Low Countries, to Germany. I mean, we're later on in the summer than we was back in the early part of June, so the heat potential gets greater as you go further on due to just general warming of the ground, of the atmosphere, of the seas. So hottest time of year is normally end of July, early August. That's when we reach our peak temperature potential across much of northern Europe. So I think quite wide across France, certainly 40 Celsius or more would be possible there. Dangerously hot again for France. How hot would it get for the UK, for England and Wales? It's very difficult to say because it's too far out. We will have to wait until next week to start looking at the exact parameters with the atmosphere. But clearly, with such very, very hot upper air temperatures, there would be the risk anyway of very, very hot weather through the second half of next week. Remember, the GFS is not going for this at the moment, although there are ensemble members within the GFS ensembles that are. This is the ECM ensemble in terms of surface temperatures for De Bilt. This is in Holland over the other side of the North Sea. The red line that you see there, that is the operational ECM run. The black line is the control ECM run. And the red dash line just there, that's the ensemble mean. So you see that it was a bit of a hot outlier. It was certainly one of the hottest members, that ECM operational run. It's one of the hottest members of the ECM ensembles, but the control ECM control run was with it. So when you get the control and the operational going in the same direction within these ensembles, you sit up and take notice because they're run at a higher resolution to all other ensemble members. Doesn't mean that they're right. They're both outliers in a way, and they could both be wrong. But when they both go in the same direction, you do tend to sit up and take notice because they're run at a higher resolution. It gets around 35 degrees on the graph, but will probably be higher than that, I think, in reality. Going up towards 40 degrees, I wouldn't be surprised for Holland. Now, this is these are the options that go on the table within the ECM ensembles. Looking at 192 hours. This is kind of like when we bring up that extreme heat from the south into much of northern Europe. Just see how much support that idea has within the ECM ensemble. So you have 14 members of the ECM ensembles just here, with an area of above average heights, high pressure sitting over the UK and much of Northern Europe as well. So that is a dry and hot scenario. Probably not extreme heat with that one because there's just a little bit of influence from the Atlantic. So that'd be kind of like temperatures up to upper 20s, low 30s, I would have thought, with a lot of dry weather. But then there's 11 that have below average heights to our north, and they're a cooler option, bringing in more of a westerly flow. These 10 just here look potentially very hot. They've got above average height sitting to the east. They'll be drawing up southerly winds. So they're a hot cluster, those 10. There's 8 with above average heights to our south, and they're a little bit flatter, a bit more westerly. And then these 8 just here, they include the ECM control and operational run. The hottest options have the above average height sort of over Germany and Denmark, and so they allow in potentially extreme heat from the south and from the southeast as well. So not particularly well supported within the ECM ensembles, but we have got the control and the operational going in the same direction. Day 10, which is the 27th of July, we've still got 14, or we have 14, with above ensemble members with above average height centred over UK. 11 have low pressure just to the northwest. 10 have above average heights over Scandinavia, so they're bringing in easterly winds. 8 have below average heights again to the northwest, very cooler, more unsettled option. And 8 again with the above average heights kind of like over and just to the east again. They're dragging up hot air from the south. So quite a split by day 10, telling us that it's by no means a done deal that we will get this very hot weather next week, but the possibility is there. In 2 weeks' time, which takes to the 1st of August, ECM ensembles look like this. 14 members of the ECM ensembles looking unsettled, below average heights over to the east of the UK, bringing cool northwesterly winds. 10 with above average heights sitting just to our east, so they're a warmer, hotter option. 9 with below average heights to our east, they're pulling down cool air from the north. 7 with above average heights to the south and low pressure to the north, probably a bit flat with a westerly flow with those. 6 hinting at northern blocking and a mid-Atlantic ridge. So there's so many options on the table for the start of August that it's hardly worth looking at it really. And 5 with above average heights down to the southwest and bringing in more of a west-northwesterly. I don't think we can look beyond next week's hot weather really. We've got to firm up on that and see what's going to happen there before we can go any further out. Finally, just having a look at CFS V2, these are 500 millibar heights broken down to week periods. The first week period takes from the 17th to 23rd of July. Coming week with below average heights out to the northwest, above average heights to our south, bringing up these southwesterly winds. Driest weather in the south, most unsettled in the north and the west. Week 2 is the 24th to the 30th of July. This is when it could get very hot, of course. Above average heights with the CFS centred over just to our east, reaching to an area of high pressure in the Atlantic. So it is very anticyclonic, and the potential will be there to draw up some hot air from the south. But all changed. Week 3, this is the 31st of July to 6th of August, and then a trough is sinking in over Scandinavia. The high pressure has gone, and that would be turning winds into the north. That would be turning things much, much cooler for the first week of August, and potentially very unsettled too. And then that cool and unsettled weather continues into week 4. This is the 7th to the 13th of August, with below average heights then to the west of us, and bringing an Atlantic flow like that. Dare I say it, that could be a little bit autumnal there through the second week of August. So this really, really strange sort of topsy-turvy summer continues. If the CFS is right, we could be looking at extreme heat for the final week of July, and then into autumnal weather by the second week of August. We shall see. I think that's all in the realm of being highly speculative. It's next week that we've got to focus on. Obviously, there is the chance that it could get very hot through the middle and second half of next week. But until we have all models in agreement about that, it's only a possibility at the moment. So if you don't like very hot weather, and we do have people watching, I know, that don't like very hot conditions, then don't be overly alarmed at the moment, because, again, we haven't got all models in agreement about this by any means. And even the models that we do have going for this extreme heat, like the ECM, not all that well supported by their ensembles. However, this is all kind of bring back memories of what happened in the last week of June. In the last week of June, we did eventually get to those extreme hot upper air temperatures. They did come off, albeit we didn't particularly realise that potential down on the surface due to various issues that we had, like drawing in the air from off the North Sea. I don't think we would have those issues this time, or not as much anyway. So all will be revealed in the next few days, and all I can say is to just keep watching the videos, and we shall see where this is going to go over the next few days, but potentially turning very hot in the second half of next week. Right, so we'll bring you the next instalment on this particular sort of saga tomorrow, but that's all for now, and thanks for watching.